It's time for an episode of CSI. We all like to watch that on TV, and today we're going to do a video on it. Let's get started. No, it's not that CSI. There's no crimes been committed here. This is not a crime scene investigation. But it does say on the trunk lid, 633 CSI. I'm sure it doesn't stand for crime scene investigation. I hope not. This is a 1983 BMW 633 CSI. And no, the CSI doesn't stand for crime scene investigation. At least I hope not. I surely hope not. This is actually the BMWs I do like. I've mentioned in the past that I don't like BMWs, and when I make that statement, it's kind of a blanket statement for pretty much anything that's late 90s or newer, especially newer. As you get past 2010, they really turn into garbage. And a lot of BMW enthusiasts that I know of in the area would agree. The newer ones are definitely not good. But this is before the years of achy breaky plastics and way overly complex systems that fail. It's really a good car. We're going to take a look around this and check it out and let you guys see it as well. It is really sweet 633. Let's take a look at it. Here we can see much smaller kidneys in the front. Nowadays they're very large, almost as big as a person. But this is back when they were much smaller, and has the round headlights, and it has the 5-mile-an-hour bumpers that you can actually have a seat on and have a picnic. Actually, these aren't that bad, but they stick out quite a bit more than a European model, and it has these nice turn signals that kind of jut out so that you can see illumination on the sides of the car. This classic E24 1983 633 CSI is in the middle of the 6 Series range of Grand Tour cars. The E24 line was produced from 1976 to 1989. There were only 1,659 of these cars imported into the US that year. The E24 was only offered as a two-door. This model was different from its predecessor as the B-pillar returned. In September of '82, the 633 CSI received a major facelift only in the North American and Japanese markets. The changes included updated exterior styling, engine, chassis, suspension, electronics, and the interior. The car has an added wind dam on top for the sunroof to kind of keep some of the turbulence out when you have the sunroof open. When this car was new, it sold for $39,000, which is roughly $120,000 US dollars today, which is the equivalent of a Maserati Ghibli or base model Levante, something like that. Very, very expensive car. So we've checked out the exterior. Let's head on into the interior and let Mrs. Wizard show you guys around.
Okay, ladies and gents, you can see we have 64,549 miles on this car, and the gauge cluster looks great. You can tell it's during the 80s because it has in that lower right-hand section a spot that helps you keep track of your miles per gallon, but we can also see we've got different indicators for oil service inspection as well. As we move to the side, they did not put the warning lights in the gauge cluster, they put it off to the side. So we can see that there are lots of different things that can be illuminated at any moment. This dash is in excellent condition, and he keeps it in excellent condition because he keeps a mat on it, and he took it off just for us for filming this video. If you look up here, we can have a nice coin tray. Everything is in great condition. All of the louvers on our heating system, cooling system, vents are in perfect condition. The dash, as we move down, the rest of it wraps around. This kind of curves around, and so it is very much angled towards the driver. Have nice slider bars for our HVAC system and simple buttons for other controls such as our rear window defrost, our hazards, and our air conditioning. As we move down, they have upgraded the stereo to a Kenwood system, which is much more modern. It does have a very surprising numpad over here. I'm not sure what they would have needed all those buttons for, being in 1983, which it was definitely pre-cell phone. As we move down, you'll see that it is a automatic. One thing you can note is that there are 4 controls for windows. Yes, the back seat of this car will have window controls back there as well. The seats are quite plush. They are very soft, supple leather with nice banding across the sides. really a bolster on them, but they are quite plush. As we look at our door cards, they're in amazing condition as well. As we look at our back seat, you'll note that it sits 2 people. So this is a 4-seater car. So despite the fact that it is a rather large car, it only sits 4 people. But do note that it does come with that same leather back there, and also, hard to tell, but does come with pretty good leg room. As we look at our side panel, you'll note that there is a control for that window. So even though it might look like a standard stationary window in many 2-door cars, this one does go up and down. It also has a handle to help you get in and out of the car as well, because it is awfully deep to get back here. In the back, I wish I could flip those up for you, but both of those open up, just tilt up slightly, and that's where they have hidden the speakers in the back shelf. But otherwise, it's still in amazing condition. Headliner, pristine condition, just a sea of gray. As we enter our steering wheel, you'll see that it is a 3-spoke steering wheel with horn buttons on each side for your thumb to press in the middle of traffic if you need to help remind someone to pay attention to the road at that stoplight and stop looking at their phone. So, enough of this interior talk. I'm really curious what's under the hood.
Let's take a look under the hood, the backwards opening hood. So here we have the 3.2 liter inline 6, and it has Bosch fuel injection. These are the years I really like, because you can get an 80s BMW but have modern fuel injection. It doesn't have the garbage K-Jetronic on it. Those are horrible. This is, like I said, the 3.2 liter single overhead cam i6 with 181 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. It is an M30 engine. It averages 18 miles per gallon, has a top speed of 130 miles an hour. You can see the engine is longitudinal, which makes it a rear-wheel drive car. This is also the beginning years where they started to put a mass airflow sensor, but it's not the type that we're used to where it's just a resistor or a small little black box. It actually has moving parts right here. This gray box, you can see the actual range of motion here. There's a vane that moves. Whenever air flows in, more air causes the vane to move more, which gives a better reading for letting the computer know more air has entered the engine. These actually have moving parts and they can wear out, but this one happens to be working just fine. This also has a distributor on the front driven right off the cam. This is just like an old Ford 8-in tractor where the spark plug wires are oriented in a way where they're all not sticking out this way, but they're this way. That way it can fit and not touch the fan shroud. But again, we don't have ignition coils or coil packs. We just have one coil and a distributor cap rotor, just like the old days. Even though we have fuel injection going on, we still have the old distributor in there. We haven't gotten rid of that. One of the concerns is a fluid leak, and we actually have found it. It has a brake light on because the fluid level is low, and the reason why is because the grommets, where the brake fluid reservoir mounts to the master cylinder, are leaking. So we will definitely be remedying that while it's here. Let's get this thing on the lift and take a look underneath. Well, here we are underneath this 633 CSI. We'll take a look and see if we see any other leaks or other issues going on. One thing I noticed just right off the bat is kind of strange. The oil pan hangs down so low. If there was any obstacle in the road, a wheel or a piece of metal or anything, and it came along, it would go straight for your oil pan, crack it and break it, and possibly ruin your engine. It just looks kind of scary to me. Obviously, it's not been a problem because it hasn't done that, but another thing that's kind of scary for an impact is these lines right here are actually transmission lines. They go all the way around and they end up right here on the bottom of the transmission. So if you were to hit something and puncture one of those, fluid's going everywhere. But again, obviously it's not been a problem. There's a radiator. Actually looks fairly new. It's nice and dry. Our belts feel good. Nothing really bad leaking around in here. There's a tiny bit of seepage there, but nothing to really worry about. That might have been just from an oil change or something where fluid got on it. Motor mounts look good. They're not collapsed. We are seeing a lot of fluid right here. We can see that the banjo fitting on the steering gearbox Looks like it's got one of the copper washers is leaking. You can actually see it physically about to drip from the head of that hex bolt, the banjo bolt. So there goes another leak we need to take care of. Brakes look good. Struts are not blown out. Sway bar links are good. I don't see any torn bushings or anything going on there. Brakes are good over here. Nice dry strut. Everything's tight there. Everything looks good. We'll move back to the transmission, which is an automatic on this model. Nothing seriously leaking or any issues going on there. Here's our flex disc, which also looks good. No cracks, no damage, anything going on there. Here's our drive shaft, which I don't know if it has a center support bearing or not. Very likely not, but you really can't see in there anyways. Exhaust system looks good. Let's check the rear U-joint. Everything looks good there. Unfortunately, it has the staked U-joint, which is not serviceable. Here's our differential. CV boots look good, nothing leaking out of it. The mounts look good. Check out this wheel. Brakes are good. Maybe a tiny seepage, but nothing really worth messing with. Sway bar link is good. Strut is dry. Sway bar bushing is good. Brakes are good. CV boots are good. There's our fuel pump and fuel filter there, which I love the way that they do those on these cars. You don't have to drop the tank or do anything. Sway bar link is good. Bushing is good. Strut is good. Well, I'm not seeing a whole lot wrong under here other than the banjo bolt on the steering gearbox. Let's get this thing on the ground. So while this was in the shop, I definitely want to do a video for you guys. It's been a long time since I've seen one of these 633s. They are really a sweet vehicle. It's a two-door, it's got nice curves on it, it has a really nice engine setup. The interior is beautiful on this old BMW. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, I do like the older BMWs. They weren't made like trash back then. They were made very, very well. But going into 2010 and newer, you couldn't give me a free BMW. I wouldn't accept it. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this BMW or any other car in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and really appreciate it. Make sure to check out Mrs. Wizard's Ways in the description below as well. She's got some updates going on her channel. And hit the subscribe button here as well, because we got many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching. It is in very good shape. It's here just from some... Okay.